Hello, everybody. This is Gerald Celente, and it's Wednesday, October 26, 2022. And again, we're very honored, privileged, and blessed to have with us a man of real culture, wisdom, sanity, care, kindness, and knowledge of the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and what freedom, peace, and justice is all about, Judge Andrew Napolitano. Judge, thanks for being here today.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for your generous introduction, Gerald. It's always a pleasure to be with you. I always look forward to Wednesday mornings.
As do I. So much is going on. And you wrote an article, we'll start with that, about Bush, Guantanamo, and the rule of law. And it's about these guys that were charged with 9/11 and the injustices done to them. And as I read the article, it was basically there is no justice, and that all this happened because, again, you made it very clear. You said that, and to keep the Department of Justice out of these cases were all made by the legally ignorant, Constitution-defying President George W. Bush. Legally ignorant.
Basically, because he authorized torture and because he took the perpetrators of 9/11 away from the DOJ and put them in the military justice system, no one has been convicted in Guantanamo Bay. It's an easy number to remember, 0. No one has been convicted of any 9/11 crimes. And now the government doesn't want to try Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. So for 20 years, the government demonized him as the second person after Osama bin Laden who orchestrated 9/11. And now they're afraid to prosecute him. Why are they afraid to prosecute him? Why are they having plea negotiations with him when they say their case is a slam dunk? Because they're worried about what he'll say on the witness stand. A, about the tortures that were perpetrated on him. B, about the injustices of American foreign policy going back to the Eisenhower administration, where we kept invading the Middle East, supposedly to bring democracy there. So in order to keep him from saying that stuff in the courtroom, they don't want to try him anymore, and they want to enter into plea negotiations with a person they told us was the second greatest monster in the modern era. It just shows what happens when a fool and an idiot like George W. Bush gets his hands on the concept of due process. He and his buddies in the Congress, like Lindsey Graham, will just wreck it. They say, send them to Cuba. They'll have a fast, down and dirty military trial. They'll be convicted and executed. The litigation's been going on for 12 years. And after the 12 years, they've thrown up their hands and said, we don't want to prosecute them. The American people need to know what Bush did to the rule of law. Oh, and what did it cost? $100 billion with a B dollars in 20 years to build, own, and operate Guantanamo Bay.
No.
100 billion with a B. It's mind-boggling, staggering.
Oh my God. So the buddies made all the money, the people that built it and everything.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
The people that built it and the private contractors that maintained it made a fortune on all of this. I got in trouble at Fox once. I actually said it to a mutual friend of yours and mine, Ralph Nader, on his show, and I didn't think Roger Ailes would see it, but he saw it. I said that Bush and Cheney should be charged with war crimes. And of course, he went berserk on me, and then we kissed and made up. Bush and Cheney should be prosecuted for war crimes, for slaughtering innocents, for leading the American military into an unjust war, for doing what they were told by Phil Giraldi was not the truth. Phil Giraldi, great CIA operative, told George Bush in the Oval Office Saddam Hussein does not have weapons of mass destruction. Bush threw him out, announced that Saddam Hussein did have weapons of mass destruction, and used that false pretense as a basis for killing about 850,000 innocent Iraqi civilians. These are war crimes, and he and Cheney should be prosecuted for them. And Guantanamo Bay should be raised. and they should put salt in the earth where it was so that nothing else can ever be there, like the Romans did to the Carthaginians.
You know, two things, or a couple of things. Number one, that a clown boy like this in what they call America, democracy, could do what he wants and authorize what he wants as the president is disgusting.
Yes.
Number two, what are we doing in Cuba? Hey, how about those Russians in Crimea? Why? How dare they? They were only there forever. What are we doing in Cuba? What is America doing in Cuba? The hypocrisy.
It's property that Teddy Roosevelt stole 120 years ago. We entered into a 99-year lease with the Cuban government, such as it was at the time. The lease is over, and we haven't left.
Those dirty Russians, those terrible Russians. How many did you say? I saw the numbers of over 1 million killed in Iraq. But let's go with your number. What was it, 800 and something thousand?
Yeah, that's the Johns Hopkins study. Whatever it is, it's an astronomical number of innocents killed.
Right. So, and now let's talk about how they leveled the place, destroyed it, ruined the lives and livelihoods of the entire nation. And now the media, day after day after day in America, covers the Ukraine war and what those terrible Russians are doing, but never did they do it when America destroyed Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, Syria, and on and on and on. In this week's New York Times on Monday, the front page, they showed a guy doing push-ups on this thing with no legs. Did you see that?
A young, otherwise athletic, good-looking young guy. I saw it. It was heartrending to see that photo. You got to look at it twice to make sure you're looking at it right. All of a sudden, you realize he's doing push-ups and he has no legs.
Right. And then when you opened it up, they had 2 pages, full pages of guys that lost their arms and legs, and right?
Yeah.
How come the New York, and so now the average person sees that like we do and say, oh my God, this is terrible. Oh, those dirty Russians. How come the New York Times didn't cover day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year, the wounded of not only the Iraqis and the Afghans, but how about the American soldiers? They never did this. Right. I'm mentioning this because this is how the propaganda works. Most everybody that I know, that I talk to about what's going on in Russia, all they do is they say how disgusting and rotten Putin is without knowing any of the facts and not once mentioning how rotten and criminal Clinton, Obama, Bush, one after another, have killed all these millions of people during their terms in office accumulated. Never a mention of that, only about how disgusting Russia is. So I'm saying to you, the propaganda is right in front of our eyes and how effectively it works.
According to a friend and colleague, the great Phil Geraldi, who spent his career in the CIA until that incident where Bush threw him out of the Oval Office, and then the next day he resigned. Much of the media today has been seduced by so-called secrets and inside information they get from the CIA and from MI6, the British version of the CIA. But MI6 and the CIA are the perpetrators and the pipelines of all these falsehoods that go to American and European media, who think they're getting scoops from inside the government. In reality, they're just getting the version of this that the government wants to be spoon-fed to the American people, and it bears little or no resemblance to the truth.
No. And again, and the people swallow it and they follow their leaders. Just like, how can you be so stupid to follow a little daddy's boy born on third base and thought he had a home run, George W. Bush. We're going to get that guy, Osama bin Laden, dead or alive. I'm not making that up.
Right.
88% of the people supported the Afghan war. 88% of the people.
Correct.
And
Correct.
talking about the war and the Ukraine war, to show the hypocrisy and the low-life pieces of scum crap that we call lawmakers, and we don't need another law, by the way, lawmakers, little people that have been sucking off the public tit their whole lives, politicians. The so-called progressives, on Monday, it was big news. It was big news. They sent a letter to President Bush, Biden, Greenberg iceberg. What's the